Hello again, everyone. Hopefully, we are good now. We had a little bit of an error over here. It took us off Facebook. I'm not sure if we were on YouTube still, so sorry for the disconnect there, but we are back and answering your questions. I'm just checking to see exactly where we cut off here, so maybe we can back up a little bit. Okay, it looks like
I think we were. Looks like we had 15 minutes there. We were running.
yeah, looks like it cut off right after our
So we
conversation
we
on
so we were off the air for
clients.
quite a bit there.
Yeah, well, oh well. So do you want to back up and talk about your Macy's story here in just a second? I do
Sure.
want to answer a question that did come in on live from Sarah from Archibalds. So hopefully you've found our new stream here and not still watching our old stream. If not, we'll have to let her know that we answered it over here. She's just asking, are businesses using TikTok for marketing? Short answer, yes, absolutely. We've talked about it a couple of times on this show. If you want to go back through any of our old shows here, on our website, there's a section for live stream archives, and we do hit on that a couple of times throughout the weeks. But Mike, did you want to just real short version of your advice on TikTok marketing for small businesses?
Yeah. Great question. I think TikTok is certainly worth exploring. And if I have the person right that answered or asked this question, Miles, me to put it up on the screen because I can't see. We're talking about a restaurant.
Oh, it was in the old
space.
stream, so
Oh, it
I
was in the
can't
old
actually put it
stream.
up
Okay,
here.
so
Yeah.
well, I'm just gonna answer the question then how I think it was asked. But yeah, definitely, I would be looking at testing TikTok, especially if it's for a restaurant, even if it's not for a restaurant. I think I said a couple weeks ago on the show that even if you're a lawyer, I think at this point you need to be testing TikTok. Why? Because it's one of the few platforms out there that you can get organic reach from, organic engagement. You can get new followers. You can reach people who have no idea who you are for free, which is really hard to do, especially on something like Facebook. It's getting harder to do on Instagram. There is Instagram Reels, which is a way that you can navigate organic reach on Instagram. But TikTok, it's like Facebook was, in the early days, or Instagram was in the early days. Most of these platforms, when they start out, they basically have a more open algorithm. And so it's meant for organic reach. And they do this for a couple of reasons. The first reason is to build the user base. And the second reason is to get influencers, so to speak, people who will create content to migrate to that platform because they can get followings. But this also works really well for any size business because you can also, like I said, get followings without having to pay for it, essentially. You just have to put out consistent content and depending on on what you consider good on TikTok, it doesn't necessarily even have to be good or maybe as good as some other platforms in order to get a following, because what is happening on these platforms is there's more attention than there is content creators. And again, this is the same thing that happens with pretty much every emerging platform that we've seen. And so if you're the one out there putting content on it, you're going to get a lot more eyeballs than maybe you even deserve on TikTok than you would, again, on something like Facebook or even Instagram. And so that's why I would really, really look at testing things out. And so that just means putting out a whole lot of different content and then looking at, the amount of engagement you get, the amount of views you get, the amount of followers that you get with the different types of content that you put out there. And so this could be, it doesn't have to be silly dances. As a matter of fact, I would probably recommend that you don't do that kind of stuff unless it's really like your personality and in your wheelhouse. Then yeah, jump on one of the trends that's happening. But whatever platform you're on, you want to be as authentic as possible to yourself and to your brand. And so it can be a combination of giving value, which is just defined by being informative, being educational, or being entertaining, and also just documenting your process. as a small business, there's things that happen every single day that we can just document that people will find interesting. Now, we can't go too overboard on that and make it all about ourselves, because everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? And they want to hear about things that relate to them more than relate to you. But you can get away with a little bit about talking about you and showing your process, showing your wins, showing your losses, that kind of stuff on the platform like TikTok. So Miles, I don't know if that was a quick answer, but I definitely want a follow-up question if there is one before we move on, because I think it's really important that people just get on there and just test and see what works for them, because it could end up being a great way, like I said, for a small business to reach people that don't know about them and not have to pay for it. And then, of course, when you do get a following, you want to quickly siphon those people off, excuse me, into something you control, a website, an email list, a texting platform, something like that. And that way you can communicate with them one-on-one more and really grow that follower into a customer. So hopefully that answers the question, but happy to take any follow-ups on that.
Yeah, hopefully Sarah has switched over to our new stream here. But I'll weigh in a little bit more and just extend on something that you mentioned there. Whether it is a trend like the silly dances on TikTok, or a trending hashtag, or a trending platform, TikTok would fall into that category of, maybe it's going to be the next big thing, maybe it's a fad. We don't really know at this point, but regardless of what you're looking at, if you are considering jumping on a trend, my advice is don't force it. If it is something that you are comfortable with, if it applies to your brand, to your personality, like you were mentioning there, if that happens to be something that you're awesome at, or something that really is you and represents your authentic self or your authentic brand, then I'd say lean into that and go ahead, jump on that. These trends can be a very powerful way of getting in front of a very large audience and getting your message out there. If you say the right thing with the right hashtag at the right time, all of a sudden you have a worldwide audience. And that's kind of the power of these social media tools. Anyone and everyone has a voice, regardless of your reach, of your actual audience. If you can jump on one of those trends at the right time in the right way and put your message out there, the platform can actually take that and amplify it out beyond your wildest dreams. That being said, people have gotten very good nowadays of sniffing out the fakes. There is a lot of fakeness online, and so people have gotten pretty wary of it. My number one advice when trying to build up your brand online, trying to build up your online presence for your business, is to remain true to yourself, true to your business, true to your brand. Your number one priority has to be authentic. Because people are really going to notice that, appreciate that, and it's going to be the best long-term strategy for you. If you try to force something that you're not really comfortable with, something you don't know what to do around, then it'll seem weird, it'll seem forced, it'll seem fake. More than likely, it's not going to have the desired effect. So that does apply to new platforms, trending topics, new hashtags, or other social media trends. If it fits with you, then go for it. Otherwise, don't try to force something that's not there.
Yeah, 100%, Miles. And I just added an article down there in the comment section. Hopefully Sarah's found the new stream. But yeah, and the one quick thing on hashtags, certainly you want to be utilizing relevant hashtags and testing those out as well. And right now on TikTok, what the preferred hashtag load, if you will, is 3 to 9 hashtags that again are relative, and test them out. And there's ways that you can find hashtags that are trending. And just DM us. I forget what the link is. I can send you the link, though I'd have to look it up of how to do that. But and so that's a good way to start, and then just test things out. Don't go overboard. Don't put 30 hashtags in there. Some people do that, but it actually won't help you in the algorithm. And then, yeah, to answer your question, our businesses, our advertising and or marketing, or just engaging with TikTok. The article I put there in the comment section is about Chevrolet, of course, one of the biggest brands and biggest companies in the world, through General Motors. And they've now debuted on TikTok, and they've came out with an influencer, which is another great thing that you can be doing even as a small business on TikTok. And so they've got a hip hop performer named Breland. Miles, I don't know if you know Breland. I don't know. I'll have to ask my son. He probably knows. I didn't know how to pronounce Kanye West last week, though. So you can tell I'm not
You have
hip
a
to
pretty
this.
low
But
bar
I'm
for pop
assuming
culture
that
here.
he has. I'm assuming that he has a massive following on the platform, and he also had a hit song called "My Truck." And so what they did was they did a rebooted version of that guy's song on the platform, and so influencing even on a micro scale, which is called micro influencing, is something that small businesses can utilize, and basically that's piggybacking on somebody else's followers. And so, again, if you're a restaurant, then, maybe I would like, and, you can't use KU basketball players or something like that, because of NCAA rules, but find somebody that has a big following or is really known around town that would be willing to post when they're eating your food, like, hey, I just got carry out, or I just dined in here. And you give them basically gift cards, is part of how it worked that out. And so what you want to do is you want to find somebody that has a large following, that's relevant to your target audience. But if you're a small business, don't go after Breland, the hip hop star, because his agent's not gonna, obviously want to do business with you. So you have to find that middle zone. That's why I said some sort of a local influencer, even what I call the alpha mom on Instagram, which are now some of them are transitioning over to TikTok. But it's the mom that has a large following that every other mom in the neighborhood or the community goes to ask questions. Where do you get this? Where do you do that? Like, you want that person representing your brand online. And so that's another great hack that you can use on TikTok, again, because those influencers, even on the small micro scale, they're able to get good organic reach. And so they can get a lot of eyeballs on your business for relatively low spend. And then also just, running traditional ads and things like that is an avenue as well on TikTok or these other emerging platforms.
Awesome. Well, I just commented on Sarah's question. Hopefully we answered that for you. Short answer, yes, businesses are marketing on TikTok. It's a great opportunity for organic reach and to reach a whole new group of people. Since it is a new platform, everyone there is looking for new material and new content and new businesses and organizations and people to engage with. I think probably right now we're going to be looking at mostly organic strategies. And Mike was talking about utilizing influencers over there in order to get a new audience looking at your stuff. There's a lot of strategies there. Overall, those new platforms are a really great place for organic engagement and reaching out to new groups of people.
Yeah, and one quick thing, Miles, before we move on, because I know this is probably a follow-up question, is how do I get those micro influencers? Is you just DM them, and you'll probably have to DM 50 to get 5 serious responses. So it's just a numbers game. But and another thing to do is don't just look at their followings, because that can be deceptive. Look at also their engagement, and whether this is on TikTok or on Instagram. Look at, if they have 10,000 followers, but only 15 people are liking their posts and engaging with their posts. Well, that probably means that they have BS followers, unfortunately, or they're just not really doing a good job of putting out meaningful content, and maybe they just had some viral piece once or something, and that's how they got their following. So do a little bit of due diligence on that, because you do obviously want to be a little careful when somebody's going to be out there representing your brand. So just wanted to throw that out there, Miles.
Absolutely. All right. I'm just putting up our link over here. So I had a question come in this morning that I wanted to address. I thought I'd like to get your take on it as well, because it seemed like it was kind of a big question here, kind of a gray area. But if you guys have any questions, anyone watching live, if
Okay.
you want a question on anything, put your questions in the comments below, or if you're catching this later, email us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com and we'll get back to you there. So the issue that came up this morning was a business that, like us, offered a bunch of different kinds of services, not just one particular product or service, but a bunch of things that were almost separate in nature. And the question was, do I build up this brand around all of these different services where it's kind of confusing? If someone goes to my website, they aren't necessarily going to see exactly the product or service that they're looking for, because I do offer so many different things. Or do I break that up into multiple micro businesses, different websites, different branding around each of these specific, highly specialized services? My answer was, I'll probably dive into it a little bit deeper here because I want to get your response to it. But that there's two different strategies here. I think that putting all of it under one umbrella might be a little bit difficult, a little bit challenging, just to put everything out there under a single brand. People are going to be a little bit confused. You've got to structure your website very carefully to make sure that people are having their service represented as soon as they get there, and then they know where to go in order to get to that particular service. It's not confusing. As soon as they land there, they see what they want and they're able to click on it without going and jumping through a bunch of hoops. But that means that single website, that single brand is going to get all of these different eyeballs on it. People from disparate industries, different kinds of customers, different kind of people, all engaging with a single brand on social media, on your website. You're going to get more traffic, and therefore that's actually going to help with your search rankings across all of these different industries, because the rising tide raises all ships. And so you're able to build this larger business. It's a little bit more challenging regarding your branding and your messaging and exactly how you're going to structure something like your Facebook page or your Google listing or your website itself. But if you can crack that code and you can make it simple so that people don't get lost, confused, frustrated, then you're going to see a much higher ceiling for yourself than if you create several different micro businesses, which will all require some of your attention. You're going to be spread out a little bit more, but one of those things is going to have simpler, more direct messaging and maybe able to rise faster than the others, or if you are to do it all together. I guess the main downside there, if you have all of them together, is that you're only moving as quickly as your slowest element there. You're really looking at moving as quickly as the slowest link in your chain. And so if you don't get it exactly right across all of your services, then you could be bogged down by one little corner that maybe didn't need to be there. Whereas if you break everything out, then the one that is really going to do well is going to shoot up and very quickly, while the other two might kind of stagnate. So I just want to get your thought on that. What do you think would be the proper answer for a business like that offers so many different products and services?
Well, you've certainly opened up a can of worms there, Miles.
That's why I thought it was an interesting conversation.
It is. Okay. So you don't have to tell me the name of the business while we're on the air, but can you give me the category? What type of business are we talking about? And are we talking about retail, direct to consumer, or a mixture?
Service, DTC.
Okay.
I don't know. As soon as I say the industry here, that's going to give it away directly. So
Okay.
service-based industry,
Okay.
let's say it's someone like us, like Wildman. We've got a lot of different products and services. Would you like to break it out into having an SEO wing and a design wing and a website wing, or put it under one umbrella? Obviously, we've made our choice and we're moving with that. But looking at other kind of businesses that do have all of those different kinds of offerings, they're kind of broad.
Okay. Got it. Okay, got it. So yeah, this is a really good question in a really good debate. I wish we had the business owner here so I could ask him some more follow up questions to dig a little deeper. But I think I think one thing that we have to, first separate off the bat here, that's really easy to conflate in this discussion, is, are we talking about building brand, or are we talking about sales, or are we talking about both? Because if you're talking about building a brand, which I think should be, if we're going to use the 80-20 rule, of our focus for most businesses, it's definitely putting everything under one umbrella, so to speak, but that, synthesizing that into what the brand means. Let's just take some well-known brands here. Okay, Nebraska Furniture Mart, for example, right? They sell a hell of a lot more than just furniture, don't they? Of course they do. They sell literally everything that you could, would, or should put in your house. Okay, they have tens of thousands of SKUs. But what's their brand? What are they known for? They're known for affordable, quality furniture, right? And that's what they get you in the door with, right? Even when they do their sales, when they run a big sale, when they run a Memorial Day sale or a Labor Day sale or 4th of July sale or whatever it is, right? They always do the big loss leaders, right? They're trying to get you in the door with the one or two or three things that they know resonates most with the audience and can put them into some sort of funnel. Right? So if I come in for the loss leader of buying the bed, well, then I got to buy the bedroom set. And then I got to buy the lamp. And then I got to buy the blinds that go with that, right? And then I got to do the whole new freaking bathroom, right? Because the bathroom's got to match the new bedroom. And so they're taking me down through a buying funnel. But if they started out in the ads or the branding and saying, hey, we're going to do all this for you, we're going to do that, I'm out. Right? And so that's kind of the secret to the sauce when you have all of those offerings, is how can I position that in a way that doesn't completely skew and complicate my brand. So if somebody hears my brand name, they can say back one or two sentences of what I do. And also, how can I take them through a real customer journey down through my buying funnel that, again, is not going to confuse or scare the customer, because people hate to be sold to, but they love to buy. So how can I remove all the hoops to make it easier for them to buy, right? Think about another industry with a whole bunch of different items, the grocery store. Okay, grocery store does the same thing in their sales, is they'll do a loss leader to get you in the store, right? And then they'll know that, okay, I forgot about this. And wait, do we have butter? Better get some. Why did they put the milk all the way in the back of the store? So you have to walk through the whole gosh darn store in order to see all those other items that you didn't think you needed when you walked in the store, right? So there's also a difference between how this would play out in retail and how it would play out online in DTC. That's why I asked that question, because in DTC you can more easily say, fragment these things up into separate landing pages or microsites or things like that to sell to people too, so you don't get them product fatigue or service fatigue, and they only want one thing and they see 50 things on your website, right? So there's a way that when we're talking about direct to consumer on online only, you do want to segment that out in some cases. So, it's really hard to answer this generally, but generally, without knowing what the business is or even the category, I would say, again, going back to the 80-20 rule, that 80% of the time you want to keep everything under one umbrella. But you want to keep that singular focus on building the brand, and then 1, 2, 3, maybe. I'm not talking to you right now. Sorry, I just got a call. 1 or 2 or 3 flagship services or products that you want to be known for underneath that brand. What are your 3 pillars, so to speak? We had to do that with Wildman Web Solutions, right, Miles? It's like I don't even know how many products we have. I probably should as the sales manager, but I don't know, somewhere between 50 and 100, maybe more. I don't know. But like, what are the three things that we focus on? Websites, apps, digital marketing, right? Because there has to be some sort of focus to what you're branding and what you're selling. And then when you get somebody in the door, when you get somebody in a meeting and you figure out all the other things that they need, then that's the appropriate time to talk about this, that, and the other thing. But if you just lead with that, it's going to lead to confusion in your brand, and it's going to make it more difficult to sell somebody, the one or two, three things that they were actually coming in to do. So, always think about that principle of people being sold to, but they love to buy. Don't oversell your products. When we talk about, even in service-based direct to consumer, I think a big mistake for a lot of service-based businesses is trying to sell their service on the website. That'll work for some, but not for many. You want to sell getting the meeting set so that your sales team can then sell the service. You just want them to opt into being like, hey, I want to hear more. And so there's all kinds of different levels to this discussion. But, I think overcomplicating things is a huge mistake. When we talk about just the psychology that somebody goes through in a customer journey, make it super simple for them, right? Apple, they don't talk about all their auxiliary products, right? Apple doesn't try to sell me, these things, right? They try to sell me the hardware. They know that I'm going to buy all the other, things that go with it and the apps and all that stuff. They're trying to sell me the iPhone and the computer, the hardware. So same thing, reverse engineer that principle with your services. What are my core services that are going to get somebody in the top of the funnel and down through into the middle of the funnel, that then I can open it up and say, okay, well, you also need this, and this if you really want your service that you're trying to, accomplish, or your problem that you're trying to solve be accomplished. Because, as we all know, oftentimes services aren't completely standalone, a la carte. And that's why I wanted to know a little bit more about the business, because sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. And so, Miles, I don't want to drag on too long, but hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. And I'll have a couple of things to add on here, but apparently it was a good question here. I've got a comment from Chelsea. That was actually my exact question a few months ago. I talked to Mike and didn't send it over email. So we've got some other people interested in this kind of question, this kind of challenge when it comes to running a more complicated business. When you have a lot of different products, a lot of different services, how do you present that online? Mm-hmm. I will add a couple of things in there. I liked the idea of focusing on your brand. When you have so many different services, so many different products, you don't want to focus on the products. You want to put your brand out there so that people identify you with that overall brand, with that overall brand concept. And so then when they go to you, then they're already sold on the brand, and then they're going to look for the service. Then they're going to look to make the sale to themselves, basically. And at that point, you probably want to pull them into more of a one-on-one type of interaction, set up a meeting with them. That's where you get the free consult in. That's when you set up a email interaction, a phone call, whatever your primary call to action is for your business. I might be breaking up here a little bit, so I apologize. But the other one that I wanted to weigh in on there was sort of an element of the marketing funnel that we don't talk about a lot. Usually we just imagine that single funnel reaching right wide at the top and then pushing someone down to a single call to action. But in some businesses, that's not necessarily what you want. You want a couple of very similar marketing funnels. So at the very beginning, whatever that first interaction is with your business, we'll say website for ease of conversation. Someone lands on your website, you want to immediately funnel them into the right category. So that first page, that first thing that everyone sees there should represent your brand, because that's what you've been selling the entire time. And then it should sort them into the proper bucket so that you can then follow them down through their relevant content and through their relevant marketing funnel. because there's going to be a slightly different process for selling someone in this industry, this particular product versus that industry and that particular service. And you can cater those things to different segments of your audience. So that means that that first interaction with your business, whether it's your Facebook page or your website or your Google listing or whatever, should be focusing on those two things. One, your brand, because that's what you've been pushing out there. That's what you've been marketing on, not your services, not your products. And then secondarily, it's going to be looking to sort them into the proper funnel so that you can bring them through that entire customer journey and eventually close.
Yeah, 100%, Miles. And you made me think of one quick thing there, going back to everybody's favorite radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me? I think another thing is focus on the benefits of your products or services. A lot of times, whether it's in our marketing, our branding, or just in our website in general, or how we talk to our clients, we get focused on the features. And, hey, it does this, and this, or I can do this, that, and this. And we don't focus enough on the benefits of what they're specifically going to get out of it. And that's just another case sometimes of overselling. Sometimes we're just giving what is we think it's important information, as the business person, because we're like, man, look at all this stuff they can do, but it's useless information to the person that's just figuring out, how can I solve this one problem? And so to talk about your point about the funnel a minute ago, which I think was really, really smart, is it's not just a one and done sale for most businesses, and they don't want to have a one and done sale. I was talking to a potential client about this yesterday as we were dissecting his or their buying funnel. It's obviously easier to sell to a reoccurring customer or to a previous customer than it is to sell to a brand new customer. And it's going to be cheaper too. Your cost of acquisition is always going to be less for somebody who knows your brand, has always already dealt with your brand and bought your brand, unless your brand's just terrible and you have a completely marketing bridge issue and you're losing customers because you're pissing them off. That's a whole other story. But then trying to go out and get brand new people to go all the way from I've never heard of you to I'm doing business with you, right? Just makes logical sense. And so the extenuation of that first buy is really what comes into play here as well. And the reason why when you buy something from Nebraska Furniture Mart, is to go back to that they tried it, they get your email address, right? They get your phone number. They try to sign you up for the Nebraska Furniture Mart card, and all of these things are ways to put them into that extended buying funnel to continue to grow and mature that customer and grow the lifetime value of that customer over time, because they know that if I can continue to grow that customer that I already have, it's going to always be a better ROI than to go back and keep trying to sell new customers over and over again. And so I think that's a really important point. Don't bite off more than you can chew. And, you can sell to that person again. You don't have to sell them all of your services or all your products, the first time that they buy something. Same thing with what I was saying about, even trying to sell the products or the services themselves on the website. Just take it one step at a time. Just first convince that you can help them and why you're the person to help them, get them the next step, and then take it from there. But it just goes back to what we harp on all the time about really understanding your sales funnel, your buying funnel. This is why you have to take a lot of time, understand your customer journey, so that you can navigate, your customers in this way and understand where they are, how to talk to them at the right time in the process of going through being your customer.
And focusing on your brand. Your brand is the personality of your business, and it's very malleable. You can do a lot with it. Mm-hmm. So regardless of if you just sell this one specific product or if you've got 100 different products and services, that brand is going to stay consistent. If you can build that up, that's going to be your best friend in developing a robust marketing funnel, a concise customer journey, and hopefully delivering good service, getting lots of sales. And that's ultimately what we're looking at as business owners. We want to see those sales. All right, so
Yep.
we're hitting an hour here. I know we had a little bit of a break there in the middle, so hopefully people find their way from one stream to the other here. But you know, it wouldn't be a proper live stream without a little bit of technical difficulty in there, just to shake things up a bit. But we will be back next Wednesday at 11. Both Mike and I here to answer your questions. If you don't already follow us on social media at Wildman Web, we're on every platform there is with that handle. So make sure to follow us there, and we will be streaming live next Wednesday to our Facebook page and YouTube channel. If you like what we're doing here, you think the content is good, then give us a like, share, follow. That'll help us to reach more people and answer some more questions. All right, with that, going to wrap up the show. Mike, thank you very much.
Well, actually, Miles, I'm
Yes.
going to go a little bit of rogue here. And folks, you're never supposed to do this, okay? When the host of the show, when he goes into wrap up mode, you're never supposed to tack on something else.
Ruining
This
my
is
groove.
definitely against the rules. But here's what I'm gonna do, because I think we got it. We got cut off talking about Macy's earlier.
Yes, we
And
did.
there was a few salient points that I had to make in that, and I know that if I don't make it right now, I'm going to completely forget all of this by next Wednesday's show. And so I'll be brief, Miles, because I know we have meetings coming up that we got to get to. Let me real quick just get to the Macy's news. Hopefully we won't have technical difficulties this time. I'm going to put this article down in the comments as well. But Macy's, who I know we're all familiar with Macy's, and I'll do a little bit more of a succinct version of this than last time. But, you know, Macy's obviously a historic heritage brand. They've been around 160 years. They are a case study, or we should probably do a case study on them. I don't know if Joe Polizzi has. Big shout out to Joe Polizzi, contentmarketinginc.com. But, you know, they did a great thing with content marketing years and years ago that helped them build a brand up. And that was the Macy's Day Parade, of course, which is just, like I said, textbook example of content marketing and building brand through that. Unfortunately, in the last 10 or 20 years, they have not done as many brilliant things until this news that they've just rolled out recently. But, you know, as I was saying earlier before we got cut off, I think one of the big things that happened to Macy's was, of course, you can blame it on the Great Recession. Of course, you can blame it on e-commerce and Amazon and things like this. But I really think that their leadership team, along with so many other struggling big retailers like JCPenney's, which is bankrupt, and so on and so forth, that they just lost sight of their vision. And they started looking in the rear view, and they started thinking, well, this is the way we've always done. And they didn't optimize their business, you know, at the right time. And they didn't, innovate, if you will, and to keep up with what the consumer wanted. And, you know, Sam Walton, I'm going to paraphrase this and probably butcher it. You know, he had a famous quote years ago that, you know, every business has a boss. You know, whether you're the guy shining people's shoes or you're running the biggest corporation in the world, we all have a boss, and that boss is.
And I think we just lost him. He's never going to get through this story live on air, is he? Okay, we'll see if I can't get him back here in just a minute. We might have to save this show for next week. All right, I'm calling it time of death, 12:04 p.m. on Wednesday. Oh, wait, no, he's back. He is back from the dead here. You were never going to get through this story.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening here. I was talking about Macy's out of the TOS agreements of YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
We are streaming. We are switching streaming platforms. I know we said that a week or two ago, but it's for real this time. We've got it all dialed up. We just didn't pull the trigger this week, and here we are. So, anyways, so I am going to wrap this up before we get kicked off again. So Macy's, gone through great ups and downs over the years. There's a lot we can learn from it. But what they've done recently, I think, is brilliant and something that we talk about all the time on this show, Miles. And that is, if you're going to be a business in 2021, you really have to be a media company and think about yourself as a media company first and whatever else you do second. And what they've done is they've created Macy's Media Company. And not only have they built out a full in-house media company, but also a full in-house advertising company. And what they've done is they're leveraging their first party and zero party data, which has become the gold standard in marketing and advertising now with the changes that have gone through on Google and Apple iOS platforms. We've talked about this several times on the show the last few weeks, and why every business out there needs to be really, really paying primary attention to getting that opt-in data. That's what first-party, zero-party data means, is people actually opt in to give it to you. And so that's what we want, and that's what Macy's has done, is they've created their own platform where brands are now going to pay them to opt into their first-party data system to advertise their products to the Macy's customer base. And it's already generated $35 million in revenue. Certainly not a drop in the bucket, but just a really, really interesting pivot. Tip of the cap to Macy's. I'm proud of them for joining us here in the 21st century and coming out of the gate with this whole idea. And again, I think something that is just a great example that every, no matter how small of a business you are, that you can take a little bit of a grain of salt and learn from this and apply it to your business as well. So that's the story. We kind of got through it without being interrupted. But yeah, really, really interesting news out of Macy's becoming a media company, Miles.
Yep, they took our advice. Well, we've been
And with that,
months. Become
yes.
media
And with
company.
that, I will shut up.
Media company.
And you can wrap up the show. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right,
We'll send them an invoice.
Yeah, we're gonna end it now. If you do have any questions or we didn't get to you here, please comment below or email us at askwildman@wildmanweb.com, and we will get you next week when we will be using a different streaming service to see how that goes. Yes. All right, thanks, Mike. We'll see him again next Wednesday.
Yeah, great questions, everybody. Thanks.
All right, thanks, everyone. We will see you next week, Wednesday at 11. Thanks.